and then before we could take transfer to US market, so that the doses are available. Again, as soon as it's coming, very shortly we're going to announce the closure of the definitive agreement, and we'll provide details to the market. Stay tuned.
That sounds good, Shankar. Another question we receive is regarding if you would be able to use the clinical trials from India, or do you have to conduct additional US trials?
It's a great question. Once again, these are extraordinary circumstances and unprecedented times. So that's why if you look at the regulatory agencies across the board, including US, EU, and elsewhere, India, China, everywhere, I think what they're considering is, everybody is going through the clinical trials as we speak. And so we have 2 emergency use authorizations in the US. These are not BLAs. These are emergency use authorizations because of the pandemic. Therefore, we believe the data they're generating in India is very strong, and they have very good safety and significant and strong immunogenicity data from phase 1 and phase 2 clinical trials. So what we are planning to do is they have completed enrollment. They're anticipating to get the efficacy data in the next few weeks. And also they started mass immunization. So our goal is to pull in all this data together and continue to work with FDA and come up with a plan. How fast, can we bring this product to the US market under emergency use authorization so that, we can contribute to saving lives and fight against COVID. So we are going to utilize as much data as possible coming out of India, a large data set, and then work with agency and see how rapidly we can deploy this vaccine in the US market. That's our goal. Again, if we have to do any additional studies, we'll be happy to do that.
And that brings me to my next question on the efficacy front. So you actually do not have the information how it compares to Pfizer and Moderna's vaccines. So we will have that information after you get our Indian clinical trial information, as I understand.
Yeah, that's accurate, Ahu. Yeah. As you know, the vaccines have, multiple things, right? One is safety, which is very important, covering the large patient population and demographics, children, elderly, high-risk groups. And the second thing is immunogenicity, which is a humoral and the cellular responses, and which are very important for the memory and long-term durability. And the third one is efficacy. Obviously, they have significant data on the first 2. The efficacy is based on, just like how Pfizer and Moderna did, you need to have certain hit rates and you have to have certain infectivity rates. And once they reach that interim analysis, they'll be able to provide the efficacy. So currently we are waiting for that.
That makes sense, Shankar. So also, is there a nasal spray or an injection is one part of the question. And the second part is, so does that mean you could actually perhaps be used with the other vaccines, Pfizer and Moderna, that could be a second addition to the vaccination? And also, I guess the dosing schedule in that sense would be important. Is it one-time shot? Like, what is the dosing schedule would look like?
Yeah, great question. Once again, I just want, this is a standard vaccine intramuscular injection. It's given 2 doses, one initial dose and the booster at 28 days. And that again has shown significant, it elicited significant immune response once you give after 28 days, both humoral responses against multiple antigens as well as cellular responses, Th1 response. Once again, the nasal vaccine Bharat is working on in India is a separate product, and they're trying to initiate early stage clinical trials. What we have is a whole inactivated, whole virus inactivated vaccine, which are bringing it to US. There are reasons for that is, again, you get a protection against multiple antigen. In addition to spike, you also have a protection against nucleocapsid protein 2, which is very important. If there is a significant viral escape and mutations in the future, and this could be still effective. Number 2, you had a very, very valid question. What do you do if people get the other vaccines, and then how can this vaccine also can be used in the future? Again, those are the discussions with our esteemed scientific advisory board we are having. Once we have authorization in the US, obviously we'll be conducting some phase 4 studies in other vaccine populations. There are a lot of unanswered questions, right? I mean, can somebody who took the, a spike protein based vaccines, or can they get a broader vaccine in the future as a booster, so that, they're covered from safety as well as efficacy perspective or immunogenicity. So I think we're going to, again, evaluate those things. Our goal is to, generate as much data as possible in the future so that this vaccine could be very effective in our toolkit in the US, which we believe is much needed.
Thanks for that clarification, Shankar. I want to ask one last question regarding the Corona program. I would like to move to other programs or more general questions after that. Majority of the questions we received from the audience was on this program. As I understand, you cannot disclose the timeline exactly, but I guess when would you have the FDA meeting? Do you have a timeline in mind? And perhaps just on the corporate strategy point of view, when do you think you might receive an FDA approval? Do you have any timeline in your mind?
That's again a loaded question. I'll try my best. I mean, my team and our external advisory and scientific advisory, they're all working extremely hard because this is so important, So currently, we're in discussions again, and so I cannot give a very specific timeline. Our goal is to, again, their efficacy data is going to come out, in a few weeks. As soon as that comes out in first quarter, obviously that will complete, our package, whatever we need to discuss, very clearly with the FDA and what the next steps are. And again, we believe the strong data will help us in the unprecedented times and see if we have an ability to move the program very quickly into EUA stage, and so we can quickly deploy it. So I think we're working very hard. Again, we need to get the efficacy data from India, which is targeted in the next few weeks in the first quarter, not too long, so we don't have to wait for too long for that. As soon as it comes out, our strategy is going to be pretty clear what we're doing in the US and what else is needed before we get the EUA.
Thanks, Shankar. So I would like to ask you about what happened with the shareholder meetings last week. I think you had a lot of reaction on the stock. I just want to clarify that for the audience. So what happened? What was the reason for the cancellation? Does it mean anything? The stock rebound, but still I think it's important to clarify for the investors.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, once again, after we went public last year, and again, we have limited authorized shares. I just want to clarify the investors out there for the clarification. It's pretty common and nominal for any biotech growth companies. Whenever there are shares which they are running out, any growth company has to continue to raise funds, right? I mean, to move their programs, and that's where you're creating a value for the shareholders while you're taking care of the patients. So as a process, when you're running out of authorized shares, if you're getting limited amount, so for the future rises, you're going to raise X amount of shares. It doesn't mean you're going to make a significant offering using all those shares. I just want to clarify. So we wanted to, increase our authorized shares so that they're there for the future, any fundraising efforts which are needed, and that's the reason. And so with the entry of the vaccine into our pipeline, and we thought, we can take a step back and see, how this whole strategy fits in with the organization, including looking into, any potential non-dilutive funding sources because of the vaccine. So we wanted to take our time and before we go back to shareholders, to increase authorized shares. So that's the reason actually we canceled the meeting. We wanted to take our time, look at the overall strategy of the company where we are, and which is different compared to 2 months ago. So that's why we just wanted to carefully evaluate everything. And again, I wanted to give this message to the shareholders and investors out there. When the companies increase number of authorized shares, it doesn't mean they come up with a major offering to use all the shares. All the companies have the authorized shares, and for them to grow,